some scholars say, Hadith, listen to me carefully. See, Hadith Qudsi is God's message in Muhammad's words. I personally disagree with that. Not because I disagree, so many scholars disagree with that interpretation. So what's the difference again? Some scholars say Hadith Qudsi is God's message, God's words, but Muhammad narrated it. But it's not the Quran. Some people say Hadith Qudsi is God's message in Muhammad's words. And Muhammad chose the terms and the words. You see the difference? Yes? Now, the question is, does Hadith Qudsi also fall under these kind? Yes, of course. At the end of the day, you need, that's a matn, that's a message, and that's chain. And you have to study it in the very same way. So there is Hadith Qudsi Sahih and Hadith Qudsi Da'if. There is Hadith Qudsi that is weak and Hadith Qudsi that is authentic. And there are books about it. So online, I found the other day there is a full book, Da'if al-Hadith al-Qudsi. It's a full collection of books of Hadith Qudsi, but also Da'if. My study, most of the books, most of the Hadith material that is Qudsi, that is weak, comes from Jewish sources, from Midrash or Midrashim in Hebrew. These are stories that were known in the community. People converted to Islam, they brought these traditions with them, and with time it became God said. Not necessarily that they are wrong, most of them, by the way, come from the Psalms. But we don't have any way of proving that the Prophet said this, and the companions said this, and this, and this, and this, and this. So now there are so many wonderful Midrashim stories that are beautiful in nature and in message. But if we study the Isnad, we have no idea of how it came about and how it was attributed to the Prophet. So we're not judging the matn, we're judging what? The chain. Is that clear? Yes.
Just not just change something, to go back to this, what you said about the Spiderweb story. It actually, at some level, what you say, question what you read, it bothered me for a while. And I just didn't understand why the Spiderweb being, Rowan and the Prophet being peace upon him in the cave. And there's a story in the Psalms of King David hiding in the cave, and King Saul's guards were after him, and the Spiderweb was going. So it felt to me like there was some sort of a similarity that was being drawn. Well, it's like, okay, well that happened, and so if that happened before, then it must be.
It must happen again.
Right, so it was like, is there like a parallel? So just for that reason, it felt to me inauthentic.
When I say unauthentic, by the way, I don't mean unauthentic in terms of the message and its value, but in terms of the isnad. There are so many, within Hadith material, there's something called Isra'iliyat. Israelite narratives. In Arabic, Isra'iliyat. Isra'iliyat. From the word Israel. There's so many within the literature of Hadith, Isra'iliyat. Meaning, these are stories that were very well known in Jewish or in Christian literatures and became a part of the Muslim tradition by means either of conversion or just mere experience. People were learning from one another in Spain, in Egypt, in Iraq, in Turkey. And there was a lot of mixing in the literature. So now, often, when I study Hadith, when I find something that I find questionable in terms of isnad, not in terms of the message, I say most likely it came from, that I go back because I studied Jewish studies for my PhD, and I studied Hebrew, and I go back to Mishnah, I find it. I find it in the Midrash, in the Mishnah, I find it somewhere in the Jewish tradition. If you read, and this, I'm sorry for the Muslims who may not like this for me, but this is the truth. Have you heard of the book called Qasas al-Anbiya by Ibn Kathir? The Prophets, stories by Ibn Kathir. Very well-known book. It's the stories of the prophets, Abraham and Jesus and Moses and John and you name it. Okay. I dare to say 40 to 45% of the stories there are not authentic by the criterion of hadith in Islam. Most of which are Israeliyat. Because we don't really have much data other than what the Quran says about David. But if you read the story of David in Ibn Kathir's, it's all in Midrash and the Mishnah and the Talmud and in Jewish writings. Sometimes I would approve it, some I would not. You see, but that's how it became a part of Islam. Now, why would Ibn Kathir, a very well-known scholar of interpretation, mix apples and oranges, mix between Jewish writings and Islamic writings? Sometimes he himself felt there was value in these stories and felt them to be authentic in terms of the message. Again, when I judge hadith, I judge by two things. The isnad, did it really happen, did the Prophet really say this? Vis-a-vis the value of the message itself. So there could be value in the text itself and the message, but I'm also judging it by did the Prophet say it or not. There's a different thing, you see? And it has happened a lot where I say, wait a minute, this does not come from Islam. The story of the stoning of women who commit adultery. It's not in the Quran. We'll talk about this after lunch. And it's not an authentic hadith. Where does it come from? You find it coming from Jewish sources of people who in Arabia or in some areas in the Arab world practiced that law at one point. And that made itself into Islam, became a part of the Islamic tradition. Yes, we have to finish for lunch, but yes.
Yeah. The story of the cave and the spider web is included in the film The Message, which I saw quite a few years ago.
Yes, it is. After I saw that documentary, I know my friend, he's a wonderful man, Alexander Cronemer, a very close friend of mine. I told him, Alex, I wish you had told me to see it before people did the final thing, because there are a few things I would easily question in that. As a scholar of hadith myself, who studied this stuff. Until you would, but maybe he felt it's a story, why not? It's a good story, as you said, for children, yeah? Yeah. Another question, maybe final question. Let's take lunch and do our lunch, our Dhuhr prayer, and be back in 20 minutes, please.
30 minutes.
I hope you enjoyed it so far.